Korea, a land with a 5,000-year history torn apart by foreign powers, ideological battles, and internal struggles. While the Korean War officially began in 1950, the conflict had already been brewing for years long before the first shots were fired. From 1945 to 1950, Korea was in turmoil. A fragile, divided land caught between Cold War superpowers, but also deeply fractured from within. This is the untold story of Korea's internal divisions before the war, a struggle for power, ideology, and survival. August 15, 1945, Japan surrenders. After 35 years of brutal colonial rule, Korea is free, but that freedom is fleeting. The United States and the Soviet Union, in a rushed decision, divide Korea at the 38th parallel, meant to be a temporary measure. The North falls under Soviet occupation, the South under American control. But beneath the surface, Korea is not just divided by foreign powers, it is deeply divided from within. In the South, a power struggle erupts. Koreans, long suppressed under Japanese rule, now demand self-governance, but what kind of government? A leftist revolution or a right-wing democracy? The country is split. One man rises to prominence, Syngman Rhee, an anti-communist nationalist with strong American backing. Educated in the U.S., he returns to Korea, positioning himself as the leader of a future South Korean state. But not everyone supports Rhee. Leftist groups, many of whom fought against the Japanese, demand a socialist state. Underground communist movements, led by figures like Park Hun-young, grow stronger. Tensions explode in the Jeju Uprising 1948. Leftist rebels, fearing the division of Korea, rise against the government. The response? A brutal crackdown. Over 30,000 people are killed, many civilians. This is not just a Cold War battle. It is a civil war brewing. Meanwhile, in the North, the Soviets install a new leader, Kim Il-sung, a former anti-Japanese guerrilla fighter. With Soviet backing, he consolidates power, eliminating political rivals. Kim Il-sung enacts radical land reforms, redistributing land from landlords to peasants, gaining mass support. But opposition is crushed. Political purges, executions, and forced labor camps silence dissent. By 1948, Korea is on the brink. The U.S. pushes for separate elections in the South. Communists and leftists boycott. But the elections proceed, and Syngman Rhee becomes the first president of South Korea. In response, Kim Il-sung officially declares the Democratic People's Republic of Korea (DPRK) in the North. Korea is now two separate nations, both claiming to be the legitimate government of the entire peninsula. As the North builds a powerful army, the South struggles with internal rebellions. Communist guerrillas launch attacks across the countryside. The South Korean government, backed by U.S. forces, responds with mass arrests, executions, and counterinsurgency operations. To eliminate communist sympathizers, the South creates the Bodo League, a program to re-educate suspected leftists. But in reality, tens of thousands are executed in one of the bloodiest massacres in modern Korean history. By 1949, the North is fully militarized. With Soviet and Chinese backing, Kim Il-sung builds a powerful army, heavily armed with tanks and artillery. But Kim wants more. He wants the entire peninsula. In early 1950, Kim Il-sung travels to Moscow, seeking Stalin's approval for an invasion. Stalin, seeing an opportunity, agrees on one condition: Mao Zedong must also support the war. With Soviet weapons and Chinese backing, Kim Il-sung finalizes his plan. The invasion is set. The final chapter of Korea's internal struggle is about to begin. On the dawn of June 25, 1950, North Korean forces launch a full-scale invasion across the 38th parallel. The war that had been brewing for years had finally erupted, but make no mistake, this was not just a war between two nations. It was a war that had been fought in the shadows long before 1950, a war of ideology, of betrayal, and of a people divided. The Korean War is often remembered as a battle between North and South, communism and capitalism. But its roots run deeper. Before the war, Koreans were already fighting not just against foreign powers, but against each other. Even today, the scars remain. The division of Korea is not just a political border, it is a wound that has never truly healed. And to understand the future, we must understand the past. History is not just about wars and battles. It's about people. It's about understanding the past to build a better future. And that is why we study history.